Christmas time is supposed to be a joyous time of the year, when families get together, exchange gifts with one another, and everyone is happy. But that's not how it is for me. Christmas is a dark time for me, darker than winter clouds that linger overhead during those cold days. When I was younger, it was a great time. That is, until my 12th Christmas. That was the year my brother was taken. It started out the same way every year did. My brother and I had written a letter to Santa. Though we knew he was not real, it was one great way of getting what we wanted from our parents. It helped my dad set up lights around the house, and as a family, we decorated the tree which my father found and cut down in the hills a short way from home. Presents were already placed around the tree, and according to our tradition, we could choose when placing a present whether or not to address it with whoever was giving the present with our name. Sometimes we did that when we wanted to have some fun. We would make or buy a present and wrap it, filling out the "to," but without addressing who it was from. I can't remember exactly which day it was because I forced myself to forget, but it was in early December, before Christmas Day. It snowed that day, and every kid in the neighborhood was playing outside in the white snow. Things were going great. My brother, Jason, and I were sledding down the hill nearby, and we got into some snowball fights with each other and the other kids that had come out to play. One snowball hit Jason in the face. After that, he ran down the kid that had thrown it at him and tackled him into the snow. I thought that they were just playing, until I saw him wailing down upon the kid again and again. I ran to break it up, pulling my brother off the kid, though the snow around them was already dark red with blood. I don't know what came over him. One of the parents ran out and brought the kid inside. His glasses were broken, and later, I heard that the kid's nose was broken as well. Though this scared me, I still yelled at my brother, telling him that he shouldn't have done that. He was younger, so I tried to be a good influence. We went home and didn't say a word to our parents about it. The sun had set, and we had a typical dinner. Dad read us a story as we went to bed in our bunk beds. The first noise that woke me up was a tapping at the glass, which I checked out but saw nothing out the window but our empty backyard. After nearly falling back to sleep, another tap came from the window. This time, it woke both me and Jason up, but we still saw nothing when we looked out over the empty backyard. Jason said it was probably a bug or a bird and fell back to sleep before I even climbed back into my own bed. I thought I was dreaming when I heard a jingling, but I heard it again and convinced me it was real. The house was quiet, and I used the light coming in from the Christmas lights from our front yard to navigate the dark house. A loud clack and a jingle came from the kitchen. I approached slowly, walking on my tiptoes to keep the wooden floors from creaking. When I peeked into the kitchen, I saw nothing. I stood in the ambience of the green and red lights while I looked for the source of the sound. A scratching came from the hall just outside the kitchen, and I froze to the ground. My throat was tight, and I felt like I couldn't speak. A shadow grew larger on the wall near the hall. As something neared, something with great curling horns on its head. It stopped before entering. Then the shadow moved on. I pushed myself to move and stumbled awkwardly as I went into the hall, but the shadow had disappeared. Another jingling came from my room, so I ran to the doorway. Jason screamed and reached out for me as a clawed devil dug its claws into his bare chest and pulled him from his bed. It stood taller than our bunk bed and covered in long matted hair. Its claws were wet from our brother's blood. Jason struggled, kicking at the demon, which hissed at him. I shouted for my parents. It was met by the goatish gaze of the monster. It grabbed my brother, tightening its grip on him again as he yelled out in pain. It pulled him closer with one hand and pulled a sack from its back with the other. In a split second, he tossed Jason into the blood-red sack. The beast yanked him over his shoulder and jumped through the window, causing the glass to shatter everywhere. Without thinking, I grabbed my baseball bat next to the door and jumped out the window, shouting out Jason's name. When I reached the backyard, the monster was already leaping over our fence, the bells chiming out as he moved. I chased it by following the hoof prints in the snow and ran through several of my neighbors' backyards. It was Mr. Johnson's yard that I ran into and lost the tracks. His backyard was full of pine trees. I turned and met the evil eyes. Somehow it had gotten behind me. It slashed out at me and caught my defending arm, sending me to the ground with a steaming gash. A row of teeth lowered towards me as it hissed in my face before running off. I was in shock and scared. I willed my body to move, but it wouldn't. To my everlasting shame, I laid there, unable to follow. I sat there as my arm bled, and my bare feet's color changed. The police and my parents found me sometime after, but didn't know how long it had been. They got me medical attention and said my feet were frostbitten. If they hadn't found me when they did, they might have had to amputate it. I tried to tell them what I saw and what caused my cut, but they kept claiming that I was having some sort of hallucinatory fit. They told me that the demon I saw was just my mind's way of perceiving the kidnapper, and the cut on my arm was clearly caused by a knife and not a claw. We looked for my brother, and the police searched, but not for long before they told us that there was a high possibility that he was already dead. That Christmas, we opened our presents with grim determination, like maybe the next present would be him. We left his presents unopened, and throughout the years, I kept one of them as a reminder of him that night. It was a present that had no from on it. Undoubtedly, it would be the harmonica he had asked for in his letter to Santa. My parents and I continued our efforts for years, and every year when Christmas came around, we would honor him. When I became an adult and moved out, my first serious girlfriend suggested I open his present. Maybe it would be something for me to keep as a reminder of him. It didn't quite feel right, but nothing about this whole thing ever did. I finally opened it this year. Enclosed was a highly ornamented box. It was a perfectly packaged lump of coal. The packaging inside the box fitted perfectly, as if it was manufactured for this very piece of jagged coal. When I took the coal out, there was a note beneath it that was rolled with a string tied around it. I unrolled the note, and it read, "You have been very bad, Jason." The writing looked as if it was written in a very dark red pen. It shocked me. When I opened it, I immediately called my parents. They both said they thought the present was from me because they had not left it. It scared me to death, and I burned it that very night. I tried to tell my story to a few others. Most times, it wasn't received well. I feel like they all think I'm crazy. I've looked into what I had seen that winter night, and I believe that my brother was taken by a demon known as Krampus. Thanks for joining us around the campfire. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe below. Also, hit that notification bell to be notified of our new stories as they are posted. If you have a story you'd like to share for narration, submit it via email, and you may be hearing your story next. Our email address is in the description box below. Thank you, and good night.